I was just checking. I don't know why.
Yeah, totally.
All right. We're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for your attendance. Let us do our call to order if we can here. Roll call.
Okay. Chair Dorsey,
Present.
Vice Chair Zwingli is absent this evening. Richard Amici,
Here.
Diane Foster. Here. Randy Morton is absent this evening. Lawrence O'Keefe,
Here.
Mike Schultz,
Here.
Amanda Van Arken here, and Chris West.
Here.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, has everyone had an opportunity to look over our meeting minutes from March? Yes. Yes. Right.
Motion to accept is written.
Second, we have a motion, it's been second to accept as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. Signed. Great. Do we have any citizen comments?
We do not.
So we'll move right on to board member announcements. Let's start to my left here with Sadie.
I just want to say I had a great time at the car show, the cruising show. I'm sure a lot of people went to that and it was always a fun time. It was right around my father's birthday and he's a car guy, so we've done it a couple years in a row and I bring my boys out and stuff. So it was great this year and it got me thinking that Robin Hood Festival is right around the corner, and I've been to the farmers market once already so far this season. So it's basically just the fun summer activity season. And I know there's probably movies in the park and some other things going on. So just make sure to watch the calendars and get all that out on your schedules, because all the fun stuff's happening.
All right, Mike.
By the time we make it in person to it's been a little while.
Yeah.
With some of the ones that got canceled and then my schedule, so just happy to be here, nothing to report.
I have something to report from Tiger. They have a new police chief as of today. Jamie McDonald got promoted. He was the interim and he's the first police chief to come up through the ranks in Tiger.
He's been with Tiger his whole career.
I
believe so.
Yeah, he was
20 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, gosh.
So, and I've had some dealings with him in the last year and he's a great guy and glad to see that decision being announced. So.
Larry.
Not much to announce. I did have the opportunity to sit in on the last traffic safety committee meeting. Instead of going in person, I was invited down to the cul-de-sac where they have some traffic issues and big old crowd. They weren't happy, but it's the busiest board in the city, I think, maybe other than city council, but that group is hopping. You guys got a lot, your work cut out for you, and I appreciate everything you guys do. And just another thing on the car show, I appreciate all the people that cruised in and stayed through the rain. I know there's a few less cars than there were, you know, every time it rains, a lot of the people just bag out, but good for them for showing up and sticking it out. You know, it's pretty cool.
I don't have anything.
Diane?
I don't have much, but I was reminded the traffic safety committee, I saw that there's now a lot of Facebook comments because that was when I was like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it said to fill out the form, but anyway, that looks fun. There's a lot of comments.
Loving it, yeah.
I commented on there tonight that there was the police advisory board and that I was gonna bring up the discussion on the community info page that's going on.
No, that's for the traffic safety committee.
That's for a 5-hour meeting next week as a result of that post.
I saw the moderator on that
I know.
post. He tagged everyone in the whole group. It says, as a reminder, you're supposed to fill out the form. I'm pretty sure the traffic safety is not gonna be reading these comments.
The last I checked, it was up to like 78 comments, but I didn't touch them. I was just like. But I did notice that it did say to fill out the form, but it got a lot of attention. I mean,
Yeah.
right? So it sounds like they're gonna have a lot of maybe requests soon.
Good luck with that.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to touch on. Yeah, just again, I was a volunteer at the car show and I just, you know, for those that are watching, maybe if you here that are interested, there's lots of volunteer opportunities around all the wonderful events we have in the summer. And we're always looking for families. I had a father, son and daughter volunteer and they were able to man a section together. We don't let the young folks by themselves at gates and what have you, just because you never know what could happen there. So we always welcome families if they want to work together. But it's always wonderful to see the locals come out and support all of the great events we have that bring in so many tourists. It's just awesome. Yeah. All right. Moving on, so first order of business, term expirations July 1st. So we have Diane. Your term is coming up on July 1st, Mike and Richard. Rich. Would you all like to remain on the board?
I would. Yeah.
Well, they have already been approved through council, so they don't have. to-
Yes.
I was on that.
Get a chance.
As soon as those yeses came in, you were.
Yeah, all right, good. I guess I'll ask next time. Chair and vice chair nominations. Is there anyone interested in let's start top down, chair role.
I think you're doing a great job. Why didn't you keep it up?
Okay, vice chair?
I feel like Lori's not here to,
Yeah, well, she did tell me she wanted to,
she's interested.
yes. Well, not to continue, she's looking to
Bail.
down, to step down. She's got responsibilities with the foundation and all. She's pretty busy, but is there anyone that's interested in that role? Okay,
The role of the vice chair is just to act as the chair in your absence, right? That's the
yes,
role of it. Just to clear that up for anyone.
yeah, that's it, it's not.
Nominate Richard.
Well, I was interested in continuing as the TSC liaison, and I don't think I can have dual responsibilities.
Why not? Yes, you can.
Can you? I can.
You will serve.
It's
It's totally your,
I mean, I don't mind. I just assumed I wouldn't be able to be in the running, but I mean, I wouldn't mind handling that responsibility, for sure.
yeah, then we can be here for meetings anyway to give your updates on the
Yeah.
traffic safety. So that would be a really good.
Move that the nominations be closed. Oh, wait, I nominate. I got to nominate.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do it if everyone wants to vote for me.
All right, well, we'll have a vote right now. All in favor of Richard taking on the role as vice chair of the Sherwood Police Advisory Board, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. I know Lori's all for it, so. So be it. So we will have, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to vote on me. Okay. All in favor of the current chair remaining in his chair, in his role? Do we have a motion?
Some of the models were voted.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. It's been seconded.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. I hear you. Okay, I will continue in this role. Thank you for your faith in me and confidence.
Thank you for doing
You are very welcome. All right, so TSC liaison, we would love to add, I think we actually spoke on this last meeting.
I think it was Brandy who.
Randy, that,
it. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask too, Kim, you had mentioned that this is possibly going to report direct to the council and there won't be a liaison at some point. Is there any traction? on
There
that?
hasn't been any movement on
Okay.
that yet.
So the structure will still remain.
Right, there hasn't been any more conversations yet on that. I know it's been talked about, but this hasn't been put in the workshop,
Mhm.
so.
Okay. So I wouldn't mind staying on for another term. It would be nice to have someone as a backup, or a co-liaison.
Brandy said last month that
She said she was interested. I don't think she was at
if she's
the,
not, I would be.
okay,
we can allow until she's here.
But she's present.
yeah, well, we can vote on Larry being a second as a backup. Is that permissible?
Are you wanting Brandy as a backup also?
We only.
Only have two people, yeah.
Okay, so the two people to attend together, or could there be a backup to one of those in the case of
No, ideally,
just one?
I think obviously Richard would always be there, and then the second, if he's not, I mean, it's not to say that they both can't go, but there wouldn't be an obligation of two of them always being.
Oh, there you go.
One obligation, yeah.
One obligation, okay. All right,
Know what we agreed.
You'd have to vote to keep me in.
yes, let's
I
do
will want to nominate.
I'll nominate you.
All right, so Amanda nominates Richard for that.
Second that nomination.
It's been seconded. All right, all in favor of Richard retaining his role as TSC liaison, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Okay, hearing none, you're hereby retaining your role, and thank you for your.
This is committee in the city.
Sure. Thank you, Doug. Well, that rolls us right into the Traffic Safety Committee. We'll hold off on, I know Brandy said she wanted to do it, so we'll hold off on, bringing her in, yeah. We'll go on to our Traffic Safety Committee update.
So the update, we had a pretty eventful meeting last month. There was a lot of just regular routine, closing down a couple items that have been resolved. Like Edie Road is officially closed down off the list because there was a missing speed sign right off Berkshire here that's been installed, so we were able to close that one. There's a new stop sign on Division. So a couple of things like that, that were all started with citizen comments and filling out that form and bringing it in. That kind of drove the long process to get to that point. So it's cool to actually see the results. You drive by and you go, that's the stop sign we've been talking about for a while. So that was neat. The pedestrian bridge, everyone has probably seen the construction that's been happening. Everything's on schedule for that. There's probably going to be some lane closures on Elward, but it's going to be during summer and it'll also be in the evening. So there shouldn't really be any impact, definitely no school impact and pretty much no commute impacts. One of the biggest things we talked about, and I personally thought that this was a very cool story to kind of see how it evolved. There is an intersection on Sunset and Timbrel that we've been talking about. And I had mentioned a couple meetings ago about a survey that was conducted where they counted pedestrians at the crossings. And that was determined to be a very busy crossing. and also a little bit of a unsafe crossing because the crosswalk is long, it kind of curves, so there's talk about straightening it up, putting flashing lights there and so on. And the city, for anyone who doesn't know, there's a very busy team of people working behind the scenes at the city, submitting proposals and applications for grants and so on. And through the Safe Routes to School program, we've been approved to move forward to the next stage of the application to receive a grant for redoing that intersection, because that's a big school crossing intersection. And typically the way grants work is it's 60% would come from the state, and then we have to get 40% of local match to fund it. And this intersection, by the way, is $380,000 is what the total cost is going to be, which is substantial. But there's a provision in the Safe Routes to School program that allows for cities under 25,000 to receive up to 90% funding. So it looks like we are heading in the direction to get 90% funding. There's some letters of support that they're gathering now. I think, Chief, you're asked to write one, and the Traffic Safety Committee submitted one as well. But then with that funding, there's also an opportunity through Washington County to get the other $38,000, 10% from them. So we might get that whole intersection for free. So it was very cool to kind of see it come together as something that we've been talking about. We had a survey on, my kids go to Middleton. There was a big push to have them, walk, roll, or ride to school a couple weeks ago. And, so you start seeing these components of, oh, here's the Safe Route to School program at play. And now here's how we can leverage that program to receive funding. And we typically, our school districts don't qualify for a lot of funding because we're lucky enough, we don't have a lot of, disadvantaged families within the area. But this is, an opportunity where we were able to jump on and grab maximum funding, and to see it all come together is just kind of like wow, that's a really cool story to watch this all play out. And it's all thanks to, like I said, the people behind the scenes who are just working hard to improve our city and save our money as taxpayers. So I thought that was a very cool update. And over the next year, maybe we'll see it construction and striping and everything kind of change that area. And I hope everyone makes note when you drive by and see it and go, aha, that's the city at work. So
Can I ask a
that was
question
cool.
about that?
Yeah.
So if there's a total cost already on the project, does that mean there's a plan already determined of what that's gonna look like?
Yes, it's, there is a plan already, because when we bring a consulting firm out, and they usually give like an A and B option, we can go this route or this route, and then kind of gets brought to council, and ultimately they're the ones who decide what the best option is. But my understanding is this is just the pedestrian access. There's a long-term plan to improve the traffic access there, as far as traffic lights, maybe an extra turn lane off Timberell and so on. But right now, for the pedestrian aspect, it's just going to be straightening that crosswalk, bringing the curve down where it comes up against, maybe moving the fire hydrant, and then putting flashing lights, push to flash. And they can't be solar powered because the amount of the amount of people who walk through there would deplete the battery if they were all pushing the button. So it needs to be hot wired to the infrastructure. And so, as they start bringing all these, criteria up, the cost just, goes up and up and up.
There's power nearby. I've got.
There is power nearby. Yes, we determined that. So it's a big project. And again, the biggest thing that hit me is that, wow, we're on the cusp of getting this for free. That's cool.
So when I was on the initial traffic safety, that was one of the things that was raised as an issue. And we deferred for two reasons. One, we want, with the old city engineer, we wanted to see what was happening with the new high school and the traffic. And that was a big issue. And then the other thing, it was part of a already in the works, long-term plan of looking at that, and it just hadn't matured enough. So we, as a committee, deferred to you guys now, I see. So,
Yeah, so it's one step further.
how long ago was that? Traffic safety's been around for 5 or 6
When it
years.
was new, when the committee was new.
It was.
It-
2020, right when COVID hit, right?
And it was reoccurring, like, we got more than one complaint about that area, so that's everybody almost who sat on that subcommittee has revisited that same conversation because we kept getting submissions about the concerns about that.
And that goes on social media, that particular one a lot too.
So speaking of social media, that's the final point I wanted to bring up. At the end of our meeting, there was a question that the chair brought up about how can we engage the community? Does anyone out there even know we exist? Because the number of forms we get, sometimes there'll be 3 one month, and then there won't be anything for 2-3 months, and then one slides in, and it's just kind of a trickle. And so there's some talks about, is there a good way to kind of get the message out there and talking about everything from putting up a booth at Robin Hood Festival to direct mail campaign to, what else can we do? And ultimately, everyone loves the social media that the department here does and said, that's the best way to reach people. That's where we'll get everyone's attention. Let's ask the department if they can put out a message. And I didn't see anything, so I'm like, oh, maybe they're not gonna do it. And then all of a sudden, a couple days ago, bam, it hit. Like I said, I'm looking forward to having probably a 5-hour meeting because we're gonna snap of new things. But looking at the Facebook comments, a lot of those are open requests that we currently have. People are concerned about the same areas and intersections and so on. A lot of them aren't traffic safety requests. It's about reduced patrols and so on. So there's gonna be some noise that needs to get filtered out and so on. But ultimately, it's a good thing. It's what we wanted. How do people know that there is a mechanism to make the community safer? And there was a great message that went out, and it'll be an exciting summer. Right?
Yeah, you guys are gonna be busy.
Yeah.
So will we.
Also, I will say, and sort of piggybacking on that, there was a video from my neighborhood. I don't know if you saw it on Redfern, the children riding the bike.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Yes, so it's summertime, kids are out of school. Just a reminder, please drive slowly through the community, even on Sunset. My kids were in an accident on Sunset, so please be very aware of your surroundings, kids on skateboards, kids on bikes, scooters. This is a family friendly town, so just all be aware of that, those that are watching. We want to see all of our kids graduate and go on with their lives safely and healthily, so. Yeah. Crazy. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Richard, for that.
Brian, after watching that a couple of times, I'm trying to figure out where that camera's posted and on which house that caught that intersection with that kid flying through it and that truck stopping.
Yes, yellow house on the corner. Had a camera on the garage that points towards the walkway.
Is that where it was? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so he saw it where the car coming up Redfern and the kid literally rode the bike right in front, didn't stop. He was riding down, it went right down the hill didn't slow down at all. So luckily the driver was aware.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about knowing your neighborhood too. You know where the kids are and where they like to play. So that driver obviously must have lived in the area because anybody else would have just, yeah. Okay, Councilor Reeves.
Well, Tuesday night, what night of the week is, Tuesday night, we approved our next year's budget. Came from Budget Committee to City Council. And in that budget that was approved, unfortunately, there was no increase in staff for the PD, but we are going to be readdressing that around October. When this year's closes and we see what our ending fund balance is, because it's always a lot higher than we anticipate. But so, can I remind you what we were asking about, a sergeant?
Yeah.
A sergeant. So we hope that by October, it'll flush out where we can get that extra sergeant on. So. And also last night, we had a work session. We've had an interim city manager since November. And we had a work session to see what our next steps were going to be. And the appetite of council was that the person who's just had an 8-month interview as our interim is doing a fantastic job. And we are choosing to move forward with Craig as our permanent city manager, and he was interested and accepted. So we'll be working on the contract with him to make him, he's been with the city 25 years as our public works director, and he's just really done a really good job. Also Tuesday night at a council meeting, council and the city were presented with a Patriot Award, and that is for cities or employers or supervisors who support and encourage military service, reservists. So we have quite a few reservists that currently work for the city, most in the PD. But this came about as our city attorney just, in fact, Tuesday night was his last night for like 16 months. He's being deployed to Kosovo. So yeah, so that was pretty neat. I'm glad as a city that we support veterans, reservists, and that we give them schedules that allow them to do what they need to do. I think in the PD, you try to work around so that they still can have their schedule, but have their weekends off, whatever they need to do their military service. And as a military family, I'm thankful that as a city, we do that. And then also this week, Tuesday, everything happened on Tuesday. That morning, we had a press conference with the EPA. We received a $5 million grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And that is the largest amount of grant that you can get from them. Yeah. So it sounded like originally we weren't going to go that much, and our consultants, which happens to be a former city councilor, is now a consultant, Jennifer Kessler. She says, or maybe staff said, let's go for the 5 million. I'm like, okay, let's go for the gusto. And so we had a lot of support from Merkley and Wyden, and Representative Salinas helping, give us support for that. But that 5 million is going to clean up the tannery on Oregon Street, what used to be the tannery, and also, I guess, a batteries company. So that ground is contaminated with acids and animal hides.
The one that's for sale right now.
No, the city owns it.
Oh, the city owns it. Okay.
Yeah, and so once we get it cleaned up, we'll have a new property to relocate our public works, which is busting at its seams, and then have 4 acres in the downtown air corridor to do something else down there. And also cleaning that up will protect our wildlife refuge. Eventually it'll have a stormwater facility on it. I went out after that press conference, we went out and took a walking tour of the property. I'd never been on it before. And as you traipse out into the bush, wear long pants and good shoes. You get to this place and then it just drops down. And a couple people went down and looked up, and I have a picture of it. You can just see the layers of the hides that were just like thrown over.
Oh, really?
As the tannery was whatever there, and you can still see them buried in the ground.
Oh my God.
And so all that is what's gonna need to come in and get removed and cleaned up and.
And the chemicals that they were using at the tannery is nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And that was on fire a few years ago from the railroad trestle. We were assigned to night watch and go clean that. And
Yeah.
I kid you not, that there was purple and green and all sorts of different colors.
Wow.
And it was,
Did you have your mask on and?
when it got bad, yeah.
Don't answer.
We all had a. Yeah.
They were outside. Yeah, we're outside. It's a really windy day.
So all that being said, $5 million for little town of Sherwood is really, we just staff and consultants, tremendous job on writing that grant application.
But what's the real cost gonna be?
That's 5 million or nothing.
I don't recall, gosh, the last time I got estimates on that was probably 5 years ago. I mean, we've been talking about this cleanup at this brownfield, so yeah, I'm not sure.
How many total acres?
I think when all said and done, there's gonna be 10 usable acres. Yeah, and then there'll still be some wetlands and other things out there, so. That is, we, as a city, have just gotten really lucky or fortunate on the grant side. What Richard just talked about, the grants from Safe Routes to School and the matching grant, that sounds like it most likely we're gonna get from the county. We had the $2 million broadband, $4 million broadband.
Think about that recently.
Yeah, off the top of my head, all the numbers are like blurring in me, but that's a good one. That is to reach underserved areas. So the rural areas that don't have access to broadband, so helping get broadband farther out.
Yeah.
Just lots of staff is,
Especially if we build out Sherwood West, that'll be
Yeah.
perfect because we don't.
we sort of say as a council, we like to use other people's money. Bring some of that money back to Sherwood, because Sherwood residents pay a lot of money out into
Yeah.
everything else. Let's bring some home. So.
Well, we use it well. I mean, I
Yes.
know a lot of the funds that go out to some of the other communities, if the right leadership isn't in place, the money gets squandered. And you wonder, what did they do with the millions for this, that, and the other? But here in Sherwood, we got great leadership.
We also found out this week that our two sewer projects have made it onto Merkley's list for coming up for the next budget cycle. Now, a lot end up on the list and what ends up actually, but Merkley does chair that committee.
Yeah,
So.
there's the $600,000 bill. $600,000 repair.
Yep, one of them being Schaumburg and yeah.
The only problem is with it being an election year, we're gonna get a continuing resolution and how those earmarks come out on the backside.
We'll see. But anyways, it's just exciting. A lot of exciting things happen in the city.
So I have a question with Roy Rogers and 99 Elton Sherwood EMS. Are the cameras back up all the way? Are we receiving revenue like we should be for those cameras?
So, pass through speed on green is up north and southbound on 99, but no red light enforcement at all in that intersection.
So what's been during that construction, what's been the hit to the city's general fund as a result of that?
I don't know the exact dollar amount on that. I mean, it's pretty substantial. I mean, it's a big hit.
I
But
think we planned for it last year.
Yeah.
We budgeted less, knowing that construction was.
I'm
gonna be
just
done.
looking out ahead when that comes back online, which is not for another year.
That's another year.
it just seems like it just keeps getting pushed out.
Mhm.
So. Yeah, I think we made all the adjustments again for this budget year, knowing that it's probably gonna be another year on that. If you recall, when we did flip that all back on, well, actually, the speed on green's been up for quite a while, but then the construction zone
Right.
debacle that we ran into with the speed. I think that's all been resolved now, and hopefully we're not gonna have to go through that again, so. Another year.
Okay, right, when you were talking with the budget and PD staffing and stuff, that reminded me of that cash flow. I was gonna say cash cow, but cash flow.
Yeah, and in this budget, no departments got any personnel added. So.
Well, I'm excited to hear, I hadn't realized that the old tannery was being looked at for public works, because that, that's one of the things I've been working with on Tiger. They have serious need for a new public works, and they can't find. They have no land in Tigers like Beaverton. There's no developable land. And they have a spot that they've identified, and it may.
Yeah, we've already gone through a concept plan phase, like we have concept plans for what the buildings don't look like, and there was a whole 4, 5, 6 month process. I sat in on those meetings to help with a consultant designing, But then you need money to build it, and it's very expensive, like $25 million building, and it's in the U plan for the URA funds but those URA funds, they get spent. So.
The other question I have, Kim, is where are we at with Metro on Sherwood West? We submitted,
In their hands.
okay.
Our city staff has been every time I hear they're at some meeting presenting the Sherwood West to somebody to, so they're making the rounds of trying to sell our idea, basically, to the county, to Metro, to whoever else listens. So I think we'll probably get some pushback from some folks, but
That's 1,200 acres, right around there.
yep.
Any other questions? Kim. Staff reports.
Me?
Yes, sir.
So speaking of. Shoot, she looked like a sleep on me. Speaking of grants, we acquired a set of barriers last year. I don't know if you remember seeing those.
They're at the cruising.
Yeah.
The white ones.
And so obviously great tools for us for crowd control, critical incidents, things like that. We just acquired a second set for free.
Nice.
Thanks to Portland. And so we've got two sets that we'll be able to utilize for the big events, and it takes some of the pressure off of obviously having to control gates and control cars and access. And if you've seen them, they're pretty robust. So hopefully they'll stop what somebody might try driving through on, but
Can you tell us how that came out through Portland? I know our other ones were through a grant from Hillsborough and off of,
yeah, Dan.
How's the Portland one come about?
So kind of the same nexus, Dan had been working with them and they just actually had I shouldn't say just lying around, but they had a set that they were willing to give up. And so
Nice.
just coordinated with them and we're able to transfer it all out to us. We look at it as a regional asset, obviously, so if Tigard or Tualatin or anybody that, needs them, the downside to them, they're pretty heavy, so you gotta have some people to be able to move them around and deal with them, but once they're set, they're great. I don't know if you guys use those in Portland or not, or.
No, I mean, I haven't seen them, not for the crowd controls today, but.
Where do we store those?
Public Works. Yeah, they sit on trailers. Yeah. So they need some more.
Every time I hear we have storing something in Public Works, I just watch the seams go.
Yeah.
Like 150, 200 pounds each or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're big. So we don't have a truck that can tow them. Even our 1,500 here can't tow them. Yeah, you ride immediately. So, so the Public Works has the trucks and they'll deploy them for us. But obviously the bigger events are cruising Robin Hood,
Which is not too far from where they're sitting.
Christmas lighting thing, but it just sparked my memory on some of the cool things that we're getting here with the city that we haven't had for a long time. So we just brought on 2 new reserves and it's, I don't know if you saw that. I can't remember if we posted that or not. Washington County, they attended the 6-month academy out there. And I always forget the commitment that is involved in that. That's 360 hours of training that they have to go through just to graduate. Yeah,
On their own.
twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, out there doing everything we do from firearms to DTs to report writing to EVOC to 40mm to tasers, all the things that we're involved in. So it was cool to see that they got through that. On the 26th of this month, we're swearing them in. I think, did we send the email out to everybody?
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, not only are we recognizing them, but obviously Sergeant Kesey and his promotion. So that'll be a fun day to acknowledge them. We do have a retirement coming up. Sean Perry, he's been here 16 years. He came from California, so he's got nearly 30 years in, but he's retiring July 24th. Did I get that right? I think that's it.
That sounds right.
So I will probably get something sent out to everybody as well on that. So it'll be sad to see him go, but his family is headed south and so he's going to follow. And then we had Officer Caraway just was sworn in last month, I believe. Hopefully I'm getting
Saw that video of it.
yeah, great asset for us in a lot of ways. He comes with 7 years of experience. He comes with a lot of search and rescue experience, which I think is highly beneficial for us. Oddly enough, we've been having the little people escaping their homes lately, and I'm not quite sure what's going on, but they're getting out and we're having to go figure find them, and it just reminds us, just being sharp and learning how to search for them, and so he's really good. The other benefit to him is, I think I've talked about it, is we've hired so many young new officers lately. Having him and Lucas, who I think we talked about with a lot of experience as well, to kind of look in with some of the younger people and give them some mentorship and guidance is going to be nice. So we're looking forward to him hitting the road solo probably next month. So it'll be nice.
Speaking of reserves, wasn't Kesey a reserve at the beginning?
I believe he was, yeah.
That's what I thought, I remember.
I think there's a few long tenured officers here that started with that track of reserves and then going into full time. So I know that, so we have 4 reserves now. And I think at least maybe all of them have an interest in going full time. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the pool we like to get. We know them, they have relationships here with us and understand who we are. And so if we can benefit from that, that's great. And it's one of our it's one of our goals within the city is to get that a little bit more robust to augment and help us out, because events like cruising and Robin Hood, we're asking our officers to now work overtime plus their shifts. And so these officers or the reservists can go out and help. And
They're able to be armed too, right?
oh yeah, they're full. I mean, at the end of the day, unless somebody sees the little reserve patch on their shoulder, they wouldn't know the difference. So that's why it's really important that they get as much training as they can. So that's pretty exciting. I think you guys probably heard, maybe not, Sergeant Jentz has handed off Miss B. So Lucas has taken her, I think 2-3 weeks ago. So there's a bonding period that they're going to go through, and then Miss B's already trained. She's just waiting for her handler to figure out what's going on. Lucas needs to go through a 10-week class, and so we're trying to get him in. So Miss B will be off the road technically probably close to 6 months. She'll be in the car, she'll be riding around, she'll be out and about. So in the interim, any K9 tracks, we'll just utilize the other agencies around us, like we always have. We just, tap them out when we need them. But it'll be nice to get that team up and going here soon. But and then MHRT, which we've talked about quite a bit, there's a transition in that as well, since Adam is now a supervisor. He's going to be coming off the team, and we should be filling that role probably next week. And so we'll get that back up and going again with our participation. And then we're working hard on getting our drone team up and going. So we've had the drones here for a bit and trying to get through the 107 licensing. There's a lot more to that program than what meets the eye. I mean, it's cool to see all the videos, but there's a lot of regulations that you got to follow. So we're working with our neighboring agencies, and hopefully we'll be up and zooming around here in the next 6 to 8 weeks and deploying those. So that's going to be exciting. Cruising, obviously, you didn't know if it was going to rain or your canopy was going to blow over, but as always, we always had a good time out there, and it's always fun to have that interaction. I took Mila out, and so all the kids love to have the dog lay down and let them pet them, since I knew Miss B wasn't going to be available. Great event there for sure. National Night Out is coming up August 6th. That is 5 to 8 p.m. We're gonna have we're gonna have the band. I can't remember the name of the band. Do you remember the name of the band?
GHD,
GHD.
Green Heron Drive.
Oh, there you go. So they're
What time?
5 to 8.
There's little flyers on that table too.
So that should be fun. That's always a good time. Officer Mattson usually makes it a lot of fun with his squirt gun fights with all the kids. So I'm assuming he'll be showing up and having that. So if you can make it out for, a little bit, say hi. I know that council has changed their schedule and they're going to be available for at least part of it. No work sessions, so we'll have a good turnout on that end for that evening.
Water fight.
Before council meeting, go to council, so.
I think that's all I have on just the general updates for us.
I had a quick question. I was curious. What do the SROs do during summer break? Do they get assigned like patrol duty or do they stay with the district and work on special projects?
So they go to patrol.
Okay.
The other both, actually, thankfully, they're both were willing to go to swing shift because we have deployments and we have people out for a variety of reasons, and they were able to plug in some holes for us. But they're also accessible to schools and, anything that comes up that's school related that they can work on. But I haven't met the new superintendent yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about him. As a matter of fact, the Canby chief called me right away and was really sad that he was leaving. So I thought that was a good sign. Yeah. But hopefully, I think he starts July 1, I believe. So hopefully this summer I'll get a chance to meet him. And he, by all accounts, as I understand it, he's very supportive of the SRO programs. So that's good to hear. The last bit of business here on my end, and you have the packet here, that I just want to touch base on. There was a survey that was sent out to the Sherwood Police Foundation email, or not foundation, the police advisory email. Regarding the standards of conduct and discipline. So I'm a part of this moral fitness group with the state. And what this does is they've identified six or seven different types of conduct and what the discipline means with that. And then they also address mitigating and aggravating and mitigating factors that come into play with the final decision on these. Probably the best way to look at this one is page 8. Sorry, page 7. So Division 10, discipline standards of misconduct. So these are the ones that have been identified as, I hate to, probably most egregious that, immediate action is taking place, and it's sexual assault, the sexual harassment, assault, unjustified or excessive use of physical deadly force. And then conduct that is motivated or based on real or perceived factors of individuals of race, ethnicity. And then the last one, moral characters is the last one there. And those fall, it has all through 8 factors that come into play there. So when these things come to the board down there, they review these, and all of these are the first line is determination. And then as you can see on page 10, 265.010.035 is the aggravating and mitigating factors that then can substantiate that, or it can actually lower the presumptive discipline or the sanction. So this has been talked about a lot, and I think these are pretty good standards that we've and I shouldn't say we, that has been set, and there's been a lot of robust discussions about, what that means and what that looks like for us. And the survey is just asking for input on whether you agree with these recommendations, for the conduct and for the discipline. So I'm not quite sure who's supposed to respond to that. Because I'm not sure what our the police advisory board is, if that's a chair.
Is it a city email?
The city is a group email that dumps to all of us. The consultation group, I thought. But when when it came into me, I looked and there was a lot of other police advisory type entities from different cities that were listed, and then there's our catch-all that sends it to all of us. And so I guess that's why I sent the note wondering, were we supposed to individually take the survey or what? And because it wasn't clear with the way it was distributed, they used the one catch-all email that dumps it all to us individually.
Interesting.
Well, it's also available online and it says, feel free to forward this message and survey link to other community members that you think might be interested in providing input to the commission. So it seems like it's pretty open as to who can fill out the survey if they have any feedback or input.
It seems to me individually, you guys could
Yeah.
all do your own if you
Yeah.
chose to.
I think the biggest question here is, I mean, you could cast a wide net on all sorts of things in conduct, but really, I think is what has been identified here, the sexual assault, the sexual harassment, the assault, just general assault, excessive force, and then the moral character, and the use of drugs and alcohol. Some of those are those enough, I guess, in your minds when you're looking at this as far as a good focus for this board to look at and analyze. And as you see, obviously the presumptive on all of these is termination for the most part. And then the second question to this is on that last page is the aggravating and mitigating factors that can be evaluated to determine, the final outcome of these. As you know, these are always challenging because they're individual and there's a lot of dynamics that come into play with some of these, but I think that it's important that we have a pretty high standard, especially for, I believe, these that are set out. Quite honestly, we don't want cops out there doing these things. And if they are, then we need to address them. And I think the presumptives have been pretty good as far as what should happen. And then there again, mitigating factors are always important because we don't know the whole story. And, there can be reasons for some of this conduct, but don't know. I can't give you a specific as to why it would. The one that probably has a little bit more of a gray area is the moral conduct one, because there's a lot of different things that come into play and a lot of different factors that can mitigate or aggravate that one. But I guess for you as a board, and then I'm not exactly sure how we're supposed to respond to this. Is it individually or if you choose to respond as a board?
I think with what Brian just read and that the due date are completed by the 25th, which is in 5 days, we as a advisory board can't do anything collectively and turn it around and do it, that it should be left up to us as individuals to do it if we're so inclined.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking at the email. First off, a lot of the people have sent to are individuals. And then when you click the link, it says organization and then name, phone number, email. So it's individually directed, but you declare the organization that you're a part of. And then it's only 2 questions. So it's something I think everyone should be able to do pretty easily if they choose to.
So the only other question I had with commission, is it the PDs, county sheriffs, state police? What about corrections? Does this all fall into the Oregon Department of Corrections?
Corrections was recently included. We've only started implementing it, I want to say this year.
That's, I was curious, that's why I was asking.
DPSSD is involved. I mean, it's statewide across all fronts. Just because I think we need to have a standardized rule of conduct across all corrections, sheriff's office, PDs, everybody.
And this isn't dissimilar from what DPSST already does through its certification boards, that if there's conduct of unbecoming or a crime or something like that occurs with someone who's got certification through DPSST, each discipline has a specific board that will talk about aggravating and mitigating and what the conduct was and make determinations on certification revocations.
Now, from a hiring perspective, if we find that they had a history of this at another department, but let's say unfortunately we've already bought them onto our department, is there any recourse there, or what are you?
So these particular pillars that we're talking about we would know about. I mean, you would most likely not even be certifiable, or you would have been revoked if you were terminated as a result of that.
Someone from another state, because we hear about officers that go from a small town in a small state and they move to a bigger city and they don't always cross-reference.
Yeah, there's, I can't speak for the referencing you within a database, but we'll do the background checks. We'll go out there. We're gonna know. And then I think the agencies, DPSST and all those other training agencies have a better connection of issues that may arise for certification, which would let us know as well. But anybody that, gets terminated as a result of this somewhere else, we should know about, nor would we ever probably hire them.
The problem can come in when people are allowed to resign in lieu of termination. Or if there's an issue that comes in, sometimes an agency will move forward on a termination. And then through the labor process, they're forced to take them back because of arbitration that's won or things of that nature. So sometimes so the hope is that this eliminates sort of past practice and inconsistency among agencies and is more uniform and easier to manage, and hopefully butt up against some of those unfavorable arbitration.
It's beneficial.
That's what the hope is. Yeah, corrections has only had it for a little while. So I don't know that we've moved forward yet on a case, but I sat on that DPSST certification board for several years when I was a union member. And so I'm familiar with that process, and we have been subject to some unfavorable arbitration rulings where you're terminating an employee and for whatever reason, you have to take them back.
So one of the things, and I think this kicked it off, so to your point, when somebody was going down a bad path and they thought they were headed towards termination, they would quickly resign. And it used to be that the investigation would then halt. But now we do report that there was an active investigation, even if it's in lieu of term, even if they resigned, if we have started any kind of IA, internal affairs investigation, it kicks it to DPSST for review. Whatever we have, we'll send everything that we have regarding the incident, so we can get around these people that resigned quickly and agencies didn't follow up or complete anything, and then they can go get hired somewhere else.
And then all their certifications are reviewed.
Yes. And so there's a checks and balances that's in play here that I think is really good for us all across the board. This has been I want to say, you came on a year ago?
No, I think it was just this year. We had DOJ came in and did a bunch of trainings for us in the IG's office, probably about 3 months ago. So I think we were just wrapped in maybe January 1.
Yeah, because I think it just went into effect, maybe it's just been a year and a half. It was right on the cusp of the last negotiations with SPOA. How long has that been? Maybe a year and a half ago, so. It's fairly new, but I think it's the right thing, and they're again, they're just looking for some input to make sure these are the kind of things we want to make sure that we're addressing, and these are the right I guess disciplines as far as how we deal with them. I mean, as you can see, they're all these specific ones all go straight to termination, which I agree with.
Is there a rule or a policy that if somebody does resign in the midst of a investigation, that the department has to turn it over? Like, could a department just say, I'm not, he's resigned, I'm done? We're just gonna drop it.
No, we have to, I mean, because this new form, you have to check off these boxes as to why they're no longer employed with you in that separation. I would like to think that an agency would do it. I mean, they're gonna go off what box is checked.
Right.
But we're gonna always check the appropriate box.
Right.
So, and I would expect that every other agency is gonna be doing the same, to avoid these issues that have probably been around for a while.
I think the only one that's not presumptive termination is sexual harassment.
Is that
That one I think is like demotion, salary reduction.
Yeah, but that's the.
Yeah, demotion, suspension without pay or salary reduction.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
If it's mitigating, then it can be a written reprimand, but if it's aggravating, then it is termination. So that's the only one that's a little bit weird, but everything else is termination except for that one.
Maybe that one's more, it would be terrible regardless, but more coachable, like.
Or recoverable.
Yeah, like you could take some training to, maybe you haven't realized what you said is that or whatever.
I have a question. Would a mental health episode be a mitigating factor or would it be a aggravating?
I know with the certification board, it's a mitigating factor. Like if there was something like that happening or someone had a health episode of some kind that maybe they weren't aware of and then they get treatment for it, usually they'll send in a letter saying, I recognized I had this problem. I'm taking these steps to address it. And then the committee finds that as mitigating.
Okay. As long as they're taking some steps to address it and it's not something to where, okay, now we have to be concerned that this person is.
Yeah, because you would still have to be fit for duty.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother track. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. I've always been on termination.
I didn't see it on here, that's why I was.
No, and yes, mental health piece is good. Good question.
So what was done before this was established a statewide standard? Was there just individual department standards for stuff like this?
There was no standards. I mean, the only review was the board she sat on, that was certification and revocation. They go down to DPSST, but we weren't, and that was only if an agency was willing to send it all. And a lot of times, and you'll obviously can help me out here, but partial investigations just didn't go, they didn't know that there was even an accusation or an issue. This mandates us to do it now.
Because we had an incident in Sherwood 10 years ago or so with an officer. And as I recall, he was dismissed with regards to an advance to a woman. And I was wondering how that was handled. If just dealt with it being chief or that?
I don't think a personnel thing, probably.
So those kind of things, back then, it would have just been, it would have still, the certification would have been reviewed.
Oh, okay.
She
Yeah, so
probably,
there's mandatory disqualifiers and discretionary disqualifiers. So if you've committed certain acts, it's mandatory that you can't get certified or retain your certification. There's discretionary ones that the board will review. Sometimes people will be, they have to. There's like if they've done something like that in the past and they've been let go, and usually the board will say like, you can't maintain certification for like 5 years unless it's dishonesty, and then generally it's a lifetime disqualifier. But if it's a shorter term thing, and maybe it's been 10 years now since that happened, the board can review that and then allow them to proceed with applying for certification, assuming somebody will hire them again. But all the discretionary ones, the board hears,
Okay, all right.
and those meetings are public, like you can follow DPSST on Facebook and get a notification when they go live. They hear police, fire, corrections, dispatch.
Because I remember reading about it in the media.
yeah, and I mean, they've been much more transparent. I mean, as far as the disciplinary thing, because that's always been a big issue, is are we trying to hide or cover things up? And so this is, I mean, it's all out there. The officers' names, the accusations,
There was a database that was recently created, I think at the end of last year. And so you can go on DPSST's website and you can put anybody's name in there that has a certification and see any cases that they've had, what it's been for and what the outcome has been, whether they've been terminated or it's under appeal still or what have you. But it gets bigger and bigger every day, unfortunately.
Motions.
I don't know if there's any more questions or if I understood correctly, it's just gonna be. You can just individually jump on there if you have an opinion on this, and I mean, 2 questions, it's not terrible, but there's a lot to it, unfortunately. Not knowing all the ins and outs of it, it's probably a little harder to respond, but I think they're just asking for, is this a good foundation to build from?
Validation.
Yeah. And I think it is. It's obviously, it's evolving and, things can change, but I think we're headed in the right direction for sure. And I missed the last 2 meetings down there, so I think, this is the final product that, they're working with.
Thank you for that information and sharing that with us. And thank you, Amanda, for your input, expertise in this. Yeah, great tool. I like to see the direction we're going with that. So that's wonderful.
I move that we adjourn, Chair.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been seconded. So ruled. We are now adjourned. Thank you all again for coming this evening. Thank you.
About an hour.
Sure.
Chief, you're